Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. In a couple of seconds, you will hear Inspector General Michael Horowitz, testimony from Mr. Horowitz years back explaining exactly why President Trump essentially banned a whole bunch of liberal publications from the Pentagon. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I should have a live stream later this evening. I want to do more uploads because news is coming out every couple of hours that's just amazing. NBC News, Pentagon removes major media outlets, including NBC News, from dedicated workstations in new rotation program. NBC News, the New York Times, NPR, and Politico must vacate their office spaces in 2 weeks for other news organizations. You're going to hear Michael Horowitz, the former Inspector General, explain exactly, essentially, why this is taking place. This is from years back. But what happened, ladies and gentlemen, is American media became an extension of the Democratic Party. Washington, the Department of Defense announced Friday night that it will institute a new annual media rotation program for its in-house press corps, effectively removing several major news outlets, including NBC News, from their Pentagon office spaces in favor of other outlets. In addition to NBC News, the New York Times, National Public Radio, and Politico must vacate their dedicated workspaces. Now, there are, dare I say, zero Trump supporters at these publications. Zero. I don't know how many conservatives, but the point is that when American media becomes an extension of the Democratic Party, and 70% of Americans distrust media, according to the latest Gallup and research polls and and opinion polls, when 70% of Americans don't trust media, there's a reason for that. There are zero investigative journalists, op-ed writers, editorial boards that back Trump at these major publications. Why? If you're a morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat, you will hear in about 2 seconds the Inspector General Horowitz report. But why? Why are there no supporters of President Trump at these publications? Why are there no supporters of President Trump in late night? Kimmel, Colbert, Myers, you don't have anyone at CNN, MSNBC, all of these major publications. Why? Why is there not even one supporter of President Trump? He won the popular vote. Hit subscribe to this channel. Listen to testimony from a couple of years back explaining why people distrust media.
However, each institution has engaged in repeated stonewalling of Congress's constitutionally mandated oversight. The infamous text from Peter Strzok saying, "We will stop President Trump from taking office," which we received on the day of your report's release, is a prime example. This text was revealed to you late in your interview as well, as I understand. Do you believe this text shows political bias?
I think, as we found, it clearly shows a biased state of mind.
And if so, do you believe the political bias shown by this text had an effect on the initiation of the Russia investigation?
I think, as you know, Mr. Chairman, that's a matter we've got under review and are looking at right now.
More to be determined on that.
More to be determined.
But the time proximity, as Mr. Gowdy pointed out, is significant.
Correct. In fact, there are these other text messages in roughly the same time period.
You were an assistant United States attorney for 8 years. Is that correct?
Correct.
In that time, did you ever charge any Espionage Act case or a case under Section 793F?
I did not.
I'm trying to understand more about the seeming need for intent in this statute. Of course, as some have noted, people never intend the bad things that happen due to gross negligence, right?
Correct.
So some courts have stated that willful blindness satisfies the requirement of knowledge. For example, this happens in cases where a defendant is transporting a package containing narcotics. Courts have never allowed the defendant to claim he didn't know what was in the package because he should have known and exercised criminal recklessness by failing to determine what was in the package. In your opinion, as a former prosecutor, isn't a similar analysis appropriate here?
I'm going to demur on what I would have done as a prosecutor or my views as a former prosecutor. I will say what was explained to us in terms of intent was actually really knowledge. The focus was largely on the fact that these documents that were classified weren't clearly marked as classified.
Well, didn't Mrs. Clinton, as Secretary of State, having the authority not only to read all levels of classified documents, but also to classify documents herself, didn't she have a duty to determine whether the unclassified server she used to transact all her official business was moving classified information?
I think it's fair to say there's a responsibility on senior officials to understand and know what classified information may be present.
Wasn't that the least amount of care we should have expected from her, with information that could cause serious harm to our national security?
I think I'm going to rely on the evidence that we had here in our review, which was to look at what the prosecutors made as an assessment. And as we describe here, their view was, unless it was marked, unless there was clear knowledge, they believed that it would be inconsistent with past practice.
There was top secret and special access program intelligence that found its way onto Clinton's servers. There were, according to the Honorable James Comey, emails or documents marked classified. So I don't know why the Inspector General keeps stating, well, the emphasis was on whether something was marked classified. Even a retroactively classified document would lead anyone to prosecution. The point, however, is why is Trump and the Trump administration banning these liberal publications? Because you would never have known, ladies and gentlemen, that former government officials texted one another saying they're going to stop Trump, or former government officials had classified data onto secret servers that were at one point unencrypted. We have no clue. Not one investigative journalist at the Times, the Washington Post, NPR, nowhere, not one person in liberal media has ever asked how on earth a classified email could possibly be transferred or, sent to a secret server outside the U.S. government. How on earth is that even possible? How can a government email, classified or unclassified, be sent? Or how can a classified email or sensitive or important State Department email be sent to a private server and not anyone in the United States government knows about it? And then they focus on intent, when they never focus on intent with Trump. They accuse him of having the worst, the most nefarious intent possible at all times. And so Clinton was never charged. Hunter was pardoned. Falsey was pardoned. All of Biden's circle was pardoned preemptively. You have the January committee pardoned preemptively. Liz Cheney, Schiff, all of these people preemptively pardoned. In addition to American media doing zero investigative journalism, which is exactly why 51 intelligence officials lost their security clearance. But let's continue really quickly.
And how they would look at this provision and therefore not charge it.
Following the 2016 election, many of my Democratic colleagues called for the resignation or termination of former FBI Director James Comey for his mishandling of the Clinton investigation. Curiously, these same colleagues cried foul when President Trump, upon the recommendation of Department of Justice Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, did in fact terminate Comey. For instance, on November 14, 2016, one of our Democratic Judiciary Committee colleagues told CNN's Chris Cuomo that Comey should be fired immediately, and President Trump ought to initiate an investigation into his actions. Conversely, on May 9, 2017, that same Democrat made a complete U-turn and stated that, quote, the firing of FBI Director Comey by President Trump is a terrifying signal of this administration's continued abuse of power on so many levels.
And not one major publication brought up the hypocrisy. Not one major publication brought up the DNC emails that said that the Clinton campaign wanted Trump And then they were all mortified and horrified that Trump actually won because they thought it was a Kremlin operation. So we know the Clinton campaign wanted President Trump, and of course then there was the Mueller probe for 2 years accusing him of being an operative of another country. So apparently, according to their own internal emails, the Democrats and the Russians both wanted Trump. But media is, oblivious to all of this. They go with one narrative and then turn on a dime and then create another narrative. So the director of the Bureau should never have handled the Clinton email probe the way he did, which, by the way, was a gift. Clinton was able to circumvent prosecution with private secret servers that had top secret intel illegally, almost certainly illegally, transferred onto them. Then he found classified data on Uma Abedin's laptop, wrote the Comey letter, which was the worst thing to happen to the Clinton campaign. Then they went after Trump and started the Mueller probe because he fired James Comey when they were saying that Comey should have been fired to begin with. Then they accused Trump of everything under the sun, trying to foment a rebellion, all of this stuff, and the Supreme Court ended up siding with Trump. They make absurd leaps of logic all the time. They have media changing the narrative, changing the American political discourse from one extreme to another, only to hurt one political party, especially one candidate, one man, Donald Trump. Hasn't worked. That's why these publications are banned, at least from the Pentagon. Hit subscribe. Huge news, ladies and gentlemen, huge news. I can go on forever on this, as you know. I'll be here tonight for the live stream. Hit subscribe. Live stream link should be below. Thank you.